I want to talk to you about something close to my heart, which is, I've worked, 25 some years developing anti-narrative processes. ANTE stands for antecedent, and it stands for anteing up the bets. So antecedent is the history, then the bets were the bets on the future. So it's retrospective sense making and prospective sense making, but it's more than that. We've developed some 7 anti-narrative processes that you can go to antenarrative.com, it's spelled ANTE narrative.com, and you'll find 70 articles that have done research and theory into anti-narrative processes. And thank you out there for all you who are doing that work. And it has to do with how we develop this notion of anti-narrative process as part of our strategy for conversational storytelling inquiry. And this is why. This is the secret. Anti-narratives are like the seeds of stories, the seeds of narrative. You plant them and they grow. They could become a good story, a good narrative, or a bad story, a bad narrative, right? So these anti-narratives are fragments. They're not yet formed into story or narratives. Narratives have a beginning, middle, and end usually. They can be more subtle than that. Stories go on, and maybe they have an ending. Maybe they're just in the middle. But the raw material, the seeds of storytelling, are anti-narrative processes. And what's fascinating about that is paying attention to these anti-narrative processes can give you amazing insights, self-reflective insights. Insights, that's test 1. It can help you with test 2, understanding other people's insights and their anti-narrative process. It can help you with test 3 because anti-narrative is its own discipline and relates to narrative and storytelling as a discipline. And test 4, you can do experiments in conversation with your anti-narrative understanding. And so we're gonna make some room for that. I like to connect it up to Charles Saunders Peirce's model AID, abductive. These are very much anti-narrative seeds. So these are hunches, these are guessworks, these are not even hypotheses. So you haven't even thought them through. You just say, wow, I have an intuition here that this is what's going to be happening. That could be an ante-up, a bet on the future. Ante-up is an expression in poker. I hope you don't mind that. And it could be, there's this fragment here and another fragment in the past. Maybe that can be an anti-narrative sense making. Yeah, maybe. But it's just a feeling. It's just a guess. And you go on to the next thing, which is having induction. Induction means like you're inducted in the army into a whole bunch of things. But induction is gathering cases. You've all heard the black swan story. Generations people thought there's only white swans. There's no such thing as a black swan. Well, guess what? There are black swans. There's speckled swans, and all kinds of different kinds of colorings of swans. So people had to drop that theory, that deduction, that's the D on AID, the deductive theory that there are only white swans. And by gathering more cases, the inductive cases, they found out, there's a black swan. Whoa, I guess my theory needs some changes. And maybe my abductive understanding, my guesses about the nature of white swans had to change into a deeper inquiry, gathering inductive cases. So we use this notion of AID as part of the 4 tests and as understanding the abductive nature of anti-narrative. So I want to give you some fun things to do with anti-narratives and in all kinds of contexts, the personal relationships, the workplace, having a discussion with somebody you disagree with, or just exploring some innovation, right? And we all have our assumptions and biases, these abductive kind of things, and they're part of an anti-narrative process as well, the abductive process. So let's talk about abduction and its self-reflexivity is very, very important. And here's some practices, some practical things you can do on your own to understand anti-narrative processes at work or in your relationships, or both. So there are 4 of them: anti-narrative journaling, anti-narrative mapping, anti-narrative dialogue, and anti-narrative art. So let's look at each of these. What is anti-narrative journaling? It's a practice of regularly setting aside time and sitting and writing out your notes about your abductive ideas, your thoughts, your feelings, your images that are not yet formed into coherent stories. They're just seeds. You're picking up seeds, and you're going to write freely and draw. We'll get to that. Maybe some music, whatever you're into, play a guitar, and just do some journaling. And I keep a lot of notebooks. I usually fill 1 or 2 a month, sometimes 1 a week. And this is my anti-narrative journaling. And it's a great brainstorming way to do innovation. So anti-narrative mapping, what's that about? So we want to visually represent things. Remember we were talking about quantum storytelling? So the quantumness is the materiality, the material discursive. And that's a term that Karen Barad uses, or material semiotics, a term Donna Haraway uses, right? And it's a relationship between kind of all the assemblages of things that are life around us and the assemblages of things that are actants, as Bruno Latour calls them in actor network theory. And so I'm wearing clothes. I got a horse picture behind me, right? These are material things. They have energy. If indigenous ways of knowing, they're like waves of energy. Or Jane Bennett's, right? Vibrant matter. So we do a lot of work in CSI with people having doing material storytelling, assembling their story without words, just with a map, right? In a sand tray, for example. And that's an important thing. Now, anti-narrative dialogue is real important. And try to have dialogues with people before an idea is fully germinated into a narrative or story, right? And conversations about the intention, exploring the possibilities, asking open-ended questions, doing active listening. Dialogue is a tool for collective sense-making. See Paulo Freire's work. See Mikhail Bakhtin's work on being dialogical, right? That's homework. Look it up. I'm just going to laser in here. So what about anti-narrative art? What is that about? Well, anti-narrative art, I've got friends that do photography. They do paintings. I do some wire sculpture. I do some metal sculpture in my blacksmithing shop. And it's a way I come from generations of farmers who had workshops on their farm, and I love a blacksmith's workshop, and they go in there and do a little welding, bang on some metal, use a power hammer, sculpt up something, you know? And I don't know what it's going to be. I'm not going to do it like an engineer. I'm going to play with the materials and the energies, right? The vibrant mattering of those materials. So, and if you're an artist, you probably know what I'm speaking about. So let's wrap it up here. This has been hopefully an engaging conversation with you about conversational storytelling inquiry, about horse sense, about the 7 principles of CSI, the 4 tests, understanding them, done with the horse sense examples. I hope you like those. Give us a comment. Let us know about it. We then jumped into single loop, double loop, triple loop, the socioeconomic approach to doing cascading DPI teams, DPI diagnosis, right? Implementation, conducting a project, doing an evaluation, sunshine law, disband when it's done, maybe join some other DPI teams, maybe take a break. And getting these happening is a regular part of the triple loop, the socioeconomic. And thank you, Henri Saval and colleagues from France, for spending 20 years teaching us this stuff. I really, really appreciate it. And we then went to anti-narrative and the whole idea that these are the seeds of a story, seeds of a narrative that blossoms. And we recommended anti-narrative journaling, anti-narrative mapping, anti-narrative dialogue, anti-narrative art, even to use material things, little toys, whatever you got around the house or your office, and set up a visual without words of what's the story that's coming about, what's the anti-narrative art here, where are you going, what are you doing, what's your bet on the future. So the various anti-narratives, for me, it's been an enlightening journey. I hope you're enjoying it. Thank you for joining us. Please go to the following websites: csistory.com for conversational storytelling inquiry, all about the triple loop, etc. Antinarrative.com for the 7 anti-narrative processes. Go to Horse Sense at Work for more important horse sense stories. horsesenseatwork.com, antinarrative.com, csistory.com. Thank you very much. Give us a like. Give us a subscribe. It would be nice. We got some important videos coming out. I hope you're going to enjoy them. Thank you.